Hello and welcome to the Animation Kimmunication podcast, your source for discussion about animation, film, fandom, and more. So please join your host, I Love Kim Possible a Lot, or KP, and Lauren Kizich, the Abbey Roadie, for today's discussion. If you like what you hear, please remember to support by giving a like, a follow, as well as subscribing to the main I Love Kim Possible a Lot channel on YouTube. Spread the word and keep being a part of a great community. This episode contains heavy adult language and is not appropriate for young children. Can't.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Animation Kimmunication. What week is it? I don't know. It depends when you're listening, I guess. Whatever. So by this point, we should have our nice, pretty Halloween overlay. Yay, spook time. So joining me as usual is Lauren. Say hi, Lauren.
Hello, everybody.
And then we have JJ Conway, who's a cool dude, and I'm going to let him introduce himself first because he's going to do the news segment with us, which is rare for people like actual industry guests to want to hang around with us because we stink, I know. So JJ, who are you? Tell us about your life.
Hey, I'm JJ Conway. I'm currently I'm a director at Nickelodeon Animation. Currently working on the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. I've been in animation almost about 10 years in January, so about a decade. Wow. Lauren and I went to the same school many years apart, Loyola Marymount. I'm from Southern California. Grew up at the beach. Got sand in my lungs and in my blood, so you know.
Yeah, and
I'm local.
And the first 5 seconds of you talking is just this is not only a California guy, but this is definitely he embodies Michelangelo. He's on the right show.
There were times where I had to do scratch for a character that Greg Sipes voiced for Sheldon on Rise of the Turtles, and they months later they called me up and hey JJ, that one scene, is that you or is that Sipes? That happened a couple of times. But Sipes was Mikey in 2012, which is why I thought of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we know people sometimes. So anyway, so we got a couple headlines, and because I thought it was interesting because for those who are listening to this way later and don't know the context of the time period in which we are recording, we are still in COVID, so a lot of the Hollywood industry in general is heavy dependent on animation because people can do that at home and not live action stuff where people have to touch faces and stuff. So anyway, so that's kind of slowly starting to influence things as stuff is coming out. So okay, Lauren, I'll let you do the first story because you like that IP, so tell us about it.
Okay, so I am personally super duper excited because one of my latest COVID obsessions, I guess you could say, I've been getting into a lot of shows since starting COVID, and I just dove way, head over heels into Lupin the Third, and I am just so far deep into this anime, and I just keep finding more stuff, and I'm just obsessed with it. But anyway, the Lupin the Third, the first movie, which came out earlier this year, the first CG animated Lupin movie, it's going to release its English dub in the States very soon. And I think that also might potentially mean a theatrical release as well. But it was only just announced recently, this week as of recording this. And so it may be sometime this month, which as by the time you guys are listening to this, it's October. So we're anticipating it might be October because there was no date set for its release. But I'm personally really excited about it. They got the original English voice cast back from parts 2 and 3. I believe it's part 3 as well, but mostly part 2 and other incarnations of the show. So you got Tony Oliver, you got Richard Epcar, you got Lex Lang. I mean, they pulled out all the stops, so it makes me very excited to see this coming to fruition. And
can you explain what it is for people who don't know, like me? The only
the
only
Lupin
context
the
that I
Third.
have is Lauren did fan art that looked like Abe Lincoln, and I was like, sexy Abe Lincoln, and she's like, no, Babe Lincoln. I'm just like, God, that's good.
Jigen is precious to me. He doesn't get enough love. But anyway, Lupin the Third is it's one of like the longest running anime series of all time. It's been running since like I want to say 1969 or 1970. I want to say 1970. And it's basically a heist series. So it's about Arsène Lupin the Third, who is the grandson. Yeah, the grandson. Yes, grandson or great grandson. I think grandson of Arsène Lupin, who is supposed to be a legendary thief in French literature. And so then he has this whole ragtag team of experts, and Daisuke Jigen, my favorite, is he's an expert gunman, and then he's a sharpshooter. You have Goemon Ishikawa, who is he is a master swordsman, and he's a samurai, so he's just like wicked good. And then you have Fujiko Mine, who is Lupin's on and off girlfriend, who is also the femme fatale who always tries to take the loot for herself in the end. But sometimes she'll work with them, sometimes. But and then they're all always being chased by the Wile E. Coyote to their roadrunner, who is Inspector Zenigata, and he's just like absolutely obsessed with wanting to catch Lupin because it's apparently his bloodline has been constantly pursuing the Lupin bloodline. So it's like it's his destiny to just chase him. I don't know if it's ever to catch him, but it's to chase him. So anyway, it's a wacky fun series. Lots of mysteries, lots of finding treasure, and just lots of hijinks. It's good.
And the trailer looks gorgeous.
It looks so good.
It jumped, like the jump to 3D looked so seamless. It looks so good.
The character models, if you guys ever see the trailer's out. Especially if you see it in the Japanese, you'll get a lot more clips out of it. If you compare it side by side with some of the animation and the art style of the original anime series, and it's just, they look exactly like the source material. They're so on model, and yet they take them and make them a little bit more fresh-faced and new, so that it works in 3D even better. And it's just like, it looks so good, just so good. I actually, that's what originally piqued my interest in Lupin, was seeing that trailer. I'm like, I have no idea what this is, but this looks really awesome.
The trailer is what made you take the dive? You hadn't seen it before?
Yeah, it's like, because it's funny because
man.
I've seen a bunch of anime, but I had not seen that one, and I actually discovering this year how many don't know about Lupin. I'm actually kind of shocked considering how long it's been around.
So legendary. Miyazaki made a Lupin movie. How can you not
exactly.
know?
And I did watch Castle Cagliostro, and I've watched it several times now. So
it's so good.
Yeah. Meanwhile, JJ and I are gushing about Lupin. So obviously, this is a sign. If you haven't checked out Lupin, you probably
JJ,
should.
you're on the right podcast.
You should probably just bring it back on just so we could just gush about Lupin next time.
That's gonna be.
Yeah, we'll just talk about cartoons next time.
That's gonna be too much work for the editor.
Forget the long hair guy.
Freaking, why are there 6 hours of these two just talking? I was gonna say, so like what I gathered from that is like Kim Possible kind of meets Sly Cooper kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's and also I guess if you want to say, it's almost like if Kim Possible meets a fish called Wanda.
Okay.
And Ocean's 11 and and Looney Tunes cartoons.
Okay.
It's really wild, especially like it from what
I very adult.
Yeah,
very
like
adult.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, sometimes you have like the Miyazaki, film, which is, not R-rated, but then you have like some of the more recent ones, like was it Goemon's Blood Spree and was it Jigen's Gravestone and a woman called Fujiko Mine, and those are like those are pretty R-rated. Oh my god,
like R-rated,
especially
R-rated
the Blood Spray. Oh my god.
So R-rated sexy time
so
or
violent.
R-rated? Oh, okay, that answers that question.
gore and sexy
Okay.
times, because let's just say that there's I mean, obviously in something with a heist and then there's guns and swords and all that kind of stuff, yeah, of course there's going to be blood and something, when, or at least pushed to the extreme when you take a property like Lupin and then you just make it R-rated. But then on top of that, Lupin is horny, so
And Fujiko knows that.
yeah, and plays off of it every single time. He doesn't ever learn.
Okay, now I'm just
Meanwhile, Jigen's the only one with the head on his shoulders, like, stop it.
more confused, but okay.
Spectacular. And it always looks just so good. The style always looks so good.
Yeah.
It's just like, if nothing else, even if you hate the story, which I can't imagine, like, it's just always gorgeous to look at. You know, be it like Castle Cagliostro, which is, you know, that's Miyazaki, so it looks amazing. But, you know, like the more recent ones, the, you know, I'm not sure the filmmaker, but, you know, the one who did Fujiko, or the Fujiko Mine series, and then the more recent movies, like the style on those it looks just like Lupin, but it has like a little more flair to it, and it looks awesome. But then you have this like CG movie, which looks super true to the cartoony roots, but it still looks freaking gorgeous.
It's like it's just so lovingly crafted down to the most minute detail that I'm like, man, I'm really excited. I really, really want to see this movie like right now. Just give it to me now.
Oh, I wish I could see like a theater screening of it, but
What's a theater? I don't remember.
Not since the Sonic times.
Oh my God.
That was one of the last movies I saw in theaters. I think the last one I actually saw might have been the My Hero Academia movie, but like, dude, like my last like two of my last three movies were definitely Sonic and Cats, and I'm not super happy about that.
I mean, at least they updated the Sonic model, so like you were in for like a little better time.
And what do you know? They updated the Cats movie too.
Oh.
What's the only American movie to get a patch after 3 days?
Oh man, it's like that. That's like a whole podcast. So, I guess Lauren, do you want to switch between the headlines since I have two leading and you have two leading? Okay. So this is something that I wasn't really paying attention to, but because everyone's dependent on online shopping these days because COVID, especially like as we discussed in the what was it? Religion versus fandom, where people like to, you know, express their, you know, themselves through their clothing, whether it be like your Jesus fandom or your like whatever horse fandom, whatever these things are. So what I gathered is via Hot Topic's website, I guess the Her Universe line just dropped their fall clothing like line, if that's what you want to call it. And so I really like the Her Universe brand. It's started by, I didn't put her name on the outline, but the voice actor for Ahsoka on Clone Wars and Rebels, and, you know, she's the main voice. I don't know, Lauren, if you want to Google it in a second, you can. But anyway, so I guess she worked with Disney to start this, like, Her Universe kind of line, and it's basically more casual, you know, Disney and other properties, DreamWorks properties, mostly Disney, but, you know, or Star Wars, which is also owned by Disney, you know, where it's...
Ashley Eckstein.
Eckstein?
Ashley Eckstein.
Oh, Ashley. I was like, what does that mean? But I was like, oh, okay, that's her name. Is that code? So, anyway, from what I get, I mean, I'm not... My family in general is big Star Warsy, but I have like a 6 out of 10 like knowledge of lore and stuff, and I know most lore, but then everyone's just like, tell me about that thing that was in the thing, and I'm like, I'm just here for Baby Yoda, guys. So anyway, so
wait, you didn't read the 3 accompanying novels that came with the Mandalorian and then the spinoff?
All I know as far as
you're not up to date on all of that.
All I know is that I guess George Lucas really didn't want to explore the Yoda species timeline thingy, like just general species thing. But then, like, when he lost Star Wars, Disney's like, fuck yeah, or like, hell yeah, whatever. I guess this can be a non-censored episode now. But anyway, and so they were just like, we'll just do it. And then they made this thing that turned into a meme, and now it's everywhere. But anyway, so I know a little bit. I know stuff. But anyway, I really admire Ashley, because like a lot of times at conventions and stuff, she'll like wear like Ahsoka themed stuff, and I'm just like, that's what you do, because she's the character. You get it? You get it? So you know, I know her universe did some light stuff with She-Ra too, so I have like a She-Ra jacket. So it's really nice, like, you know, IP themed clothing that is more adulty and not just like I can't fit into this like extra small children's shirt with memes or whatever all over it. So my aesthetic for most of the time like is 70% like fandom or, you know, just cartoon stuff, because I like to do that. So, you know, they had all the Disney dresses or a couple of the Disney dresses for the princesses in kind of like a Disney bound light style, and they had like some new overalls that I think are Tangled and Coco themed. So it's neat. I think Hot Topic has it in some other places if you want to check it out. But yeah, I really like the whole idea of like female fandom themed clothing, because that's kind of my jam. So yeah, I know you don't have any money, but if you want to spend it on yourself, then there you go. Or just wait till things go on sale. That's fine too. Okay, Lauren, it's your turn.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of Hot Topic, don't you have a little something else to add from Hot Topic?
Well, I'll let you do the other one first, and then I'll go on that.
All right. Well, okay. Well, back to animation.
Well, they're all animation themed, so it's fine.
Well, yeah. For about a film, about a movie.
Okay.
I was gonna say it was about specifically about Red Shoes and the Seven Dwarfs. Now, you've probably heard about it, probably not, but whether you have or not, it's a Korean animated comedy that was released last year, a few years ago, but I think it was actually a couple years ago. And then it was just kind of funky on its distribution, and then it's supposed to be coming out this year, I think. It's in the United States, and go figure that our buddy Tony Bancroft was voice director on that movie, so he got to direct the English voice cast, so that was cool.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have probably heard about the controversy of the Red Shoes release overseas originally, it's because the marketing department screwed up on it, because they made it look like they were fat shaming, because the main character, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, who's actually Snow White, is actually she's actually like a heavier girl in the movie, and she puts on these shoes that make her look young and like I wouldn't say young, she make her look like little and skinny. But so they were the marketing basically almost made it look like fat shaming, and that was the marketing department's fault, because the story itself is absolutely not that. It's almost like a twist on, I guess you want to say it's almost like a twist on the Snow White tale, but also on a few other fairy tales, where it's almost like the premise is that there are these 7 princes that are cursed by this fairy because they see that this fairy is actually very ugly. At least they deem her ugly. And then she's like, you guys need to learn how to appreciate true beauty, and so I'm going to curse you. And the only way to break this curse is by somebody to love you, and by like an actual, true love's kiss or whatever, like for real love, and curses them to look like these little green dwarf creatures. And so,
man, I love Beauty and the Beast.
But the thing, but the thing is that only when somebody's looking at them, they will look like dwarves. When somebody's looking away, they will look like princes again. So it's like an on and off, so they're supposed to play up off of that constantly in the movie. So I've seen clips of it. It's actually pretty good, how they do it. And then meanwhile, Snow White is she is a princess, daughter of a king, and the queen is trying to, I guess, basically usurp the throne using these magical red shoes that she's crafting from this tree. Snow White accidentally grabs a hold of these shoes, and the magic's put on her, and she can't remove the shoes. And it's this whole thing where she ends up fleeing the kingdom because the queen mistakes her for like a thief, not recognizing it's Snow White. and she ends up, you know, having to team up with the dwarves, and they're both trying to break their curses and all that kind of stuff, and both trying to learn how to, like, you know, showing the other how to love somebody for who they are. But yeah, it's supposed to be I have seen some reviews of it too, and a lot of people really do like it. So don't listen to the marketing department blow up story, because it's not that.
Was there already a dub release version before this, and this is just like the official release?
This is, well, yes, there was an English dub, but it was not released here. It was, yeah, it was, so it's officially getting like a US, I guess, theatrical release here, but overseas it did get released.
Okay, because I know people had watched it before. I'm like, did they just like subtitle it? But no, that makes more sense.
Yeah. No, there was definitely already an English voice cast for it and stuff. It's just in terms of US distribution, it hasn't happened yet until now.
Okay, that's neat.
Yep.
Okay, so my last story before we actually get into like stuff that you came for the most part, is right, like, I always have this feeling that people are like, oh, I don't want to hear these bitches talk about like shit they like. I'm just gonna fast forward to like how I get a job. So anyway, so my story is in this like little splurge of like looking at Hot Topic and seeing how they're trying to survive. One of the things I found is the thing I bought it. I was so excited, even though it's the worst. Like, I say the worst character, but he's not the worst character. He's just probably the least likable character, I guess. Anyway, so I saw an official Treasure Planet shirt with Ben on it, and it's like a pop art thing, like Tell Me When I'm Rambling, and I'm so proud because like they could have took like a pre-made vector from like 20 years ago and just popped it on a shirt, but they actually took the time. Someone opened Photoshop and made it like more pop arty. The only thing I'm kind of sad about is they had, like, usually all this stuff is just like, oh, Cinderella, or oh, Ariel, or oh, it's like mermaid hair or whatever, like, you know, they don't have to like put the fucking logo on the movie on the shirt for you to understand like the context of the thing. But for this one, they did. Mm-hmm. Like in the bottom corner, there's like the Treasure Planet logo, just in case you forgot. You know, thanks Disney. Thanks for reminding me.
In case
Treasure Planet's not a beloved one. We might want to put the name on it.
We might have to remind people a little bit, but
well, it's more. I think it's more because maybe people wanted to forget the Martin Short robot.
There's worse movies.
No offense to Martin Short. It's just his character was not exactly anyone's favorite.
You know, there are worse movies. But anyway, you know, like, you know, he's fine compared to like, there's much worse Scrappies than Martin Short robot. But anyway,
like Scrappy.
Yeah, like as a starter. Scrappy is a term, is a trope, which is basically a character that's not liked by like anyone. So, you know, that's that.
Like Scrappy Doo from Scooby Doo.
Anyway, I always forget I have to define stuff because I talk fandom and people are like, what the fuck? So anyway, so this is I think this is the first, I'm pretty sure, I'm like 90% sure, like this is the first like officially licensed Treasure Planet thing in like 20 years. The only thing that I've seen that is Treasure Planet that is like not fan art put on like a TeePublic shirt or something like that is like a very small chip from like the Disney Infinity games where they had different, I guess, power-ups or something. Like you get the characters and you put them on the stand and then they could play in the thing like a box. So it's basically like a build your own world or whatever, but with Disney characters and Marvel characters and Star Wars characters, I guess. It discontinued, but I thought it was a really cool idea, and if I was a kid, like I would have been on that shit. But anyway, so like they had like a little Solar Surfer disc but they also had things like a Mabel power-up from Gravity Falls and stuff like that, but that was the only thing I could find like relatively recently. So like if you have money, like I don't like Ben. I mean, he's fine. Like I've said, we just had this conversation. He's relatively fine, and he's fun to like you know, some people. And, you know, I still bought the shirt because I'm just like, yo, like this is, you know, there's the robot guy from the thing that I like. So, you know, if you have money and like even some of the Disney Renaissance movies that are not as popular, quote unquote, like Hunchback and like Tarzan and like, you know, some of the Disney afternoon stuff even. Like, I'm seeing Gargoyles stuff reemerge, and, you know, like...
What?
Yeah, there's Gargoyles Funkos, yo.
Gargoyles, my
And I think
jam.
Box Lunch has a bunch of gargoyle stuff too now.
Not-
Box Lunch is especially good at giving you like the even more exclusive stuff.
What are they? What
Box
kind of
Lunch?
merchandise
Box
do they
Lunch
do?
is it. Oh, Box Lunch is a sister to Hot Topic, pretty much.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
similar kind of merch, but it's actually even more exclusive because they have a wider variety of things, and plus every purchase goes to help pay for meals. So for those who can't afford meals.
Oh, yeah,
So
you should
that's why it's
clarify
like
that.
a Box
It
Lunch.
pays for food,
Oh,
but,
cool.
like, for rich people, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's like it's like proceeds from purchases go to helping feed hungry kids and hungry families. So
Yeah.
Oh no, this site's wonderful.
yeah, there's
Oh,
I'm
no.
that's
browsing
why
it
they
right
got
now.
lots of, and if anything, I feel like it's more I don't maybe millennial centric because it's focused on the collectability aspect, and like you get more Loungefly backpacks, you get more exclusive merchandise. Like I've seen a lot more of like Emperor's New Groove stuff, Gargoyles, Disney Afternoon stuff.
Oh,
like that
yeah.
kind of the harder to find stuff goes through Box Lunch.
I just saw on my feed, like, this is not really news, this is kind of like relevant to what we were talking about, but we talked about the Disney designer brand with Esmeralda that I got that, like, a $200 Esmeralda, don't judge me, internet, but they just released like, I guess, like, no one knew about it, but they just released a subset of the Masquerade brand with villains. And they have like
Yes.
the usual Ursula and Maleficent and stuff, but they also have the villain from Enchanted that I don't remember her name. It's not important.
Actually, no. I had to double check that. That's actually still just the evil queen from Snow White. She
Oh.
just has a revamp. I know. I thought it was Queen Narissa too. I had to double check, and I'm like, dang it, no. Her color scheme's not the same, and they had to clarify on the catalog that it's actually the what was her name? Green. What was it? What was I'm gonna have to remember who the queen was in Snow White, but everyone knows her as Evil Queen, right? But anyway,
Some bitch, it's fine.
But yeah, but the special highlights to me are that they included Hades and Yzma from the Emperor's New Groove. So Hades is Hercules and Yzma is Emperor's New Groove. Two villains that I mean, one gets definitely more stuff than the other. So, but the fact that these two were included in the lineup at all for Masquerade is amazing.
Yeah, and those are two of Lauren's like favorite things ever, so she's happy. If you guys want to buy Lauren some dollars, you can send them, like, you know, I'm sure she'll accept your PayPal money. But anyway, like, you know, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, but I don't think there's ever been, like, a doll of either Hades or Yzma, right?
Yeah, well, to that level, no, I don't think so. I mean, I think there may have been, I don't know, plushies of them before when their movies were released, but other than that, they have not gotten, like, the special collectible doll treatment like this, especially. So it's really cool to see that they're finally getting that treatment. One 20-something years after the fact, and the other one, 20 years exactly after the fact.
Yay, millennials were winning. So, so yeah, I think that's all the news. And then you got like you even got like 5 news stories. I'm glad JJ is patient. But like, as far as the gargoyle stuff, JJ, I've seen like, I've mentioned I play Sorcerer's Arena, which is a Disney like fighting game, and they have Demona on there, as well as like robot Goliath like enemies that you fight, and then like they have emojis they just released like an emoji pack with all the gargoyles characters, like even the dog Bronx. Bronx is the dog, right? The dog gargoyle thing. Okay. And then I was like looking over your IMDb, and I'm like, oh, never mind, you're biased. Like, get out of here. So what I'm referring to is that JJ worked on Young Justice, which is Greg Westman's show, who created Gargoyles. So like, you know, I paid attention. I Googled things. Okay, so
my first day of work on Young Justice, when I met Greg, I'm like, oh my god, this is the guy who created the Gargoyles. Oh my god.
It's fine. Yeah, from what I've heard, he's like a pretty cool dude, and I really hope like there's Gargoyle something that gets out, as it's starting to kind of get nostalgized again. So we'll see.
Like, everybody says, "Oh no, we totally have like a 5-year plan for like this show," but like most of the people are lying. But Greg Weisman legitimately has like I legitimately believe that guy has like 20 years of mythology mapped out in detail, like to the
Wow.
week. Because like he is that meticulous.
Yeah.
Like on Young Justice, like between there's a time jump between seasons 1 and 2, and when we launched season 2, they like each storyboard team had like a 3-hour meeting where Greg like sat them in a conference room and told them what happened in the 5-year gap.
Oh my
Like,
god.
Wow.
in detail what happened in that 5-year gap. It's like I believe that if anybody actually has, like the next 10 seasons of a show ready to go, if somebody called, I bet it's him.
Oh my god, he sounds like the best guy. Yeah, he even wrote a Kim Possible episode one time, which no one cares about, but I know that because of course I do. But yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get Greg for something eventually, but I'm like, hey, let's just talk about gargoyles, and he's like, sounds cool, but I don't know any of these people, so I'm just like making plans in my head. It's fine. Okay.
You're making a guest wish list.
Yeah, like the whole point of like, I don't know how much Lauren told you, but like the whole point of the channel, and for those listening, is kind of like re-inviting people to like talk about why they're passionate about animation or like specific shows that they worked on, because like sometimes like even with the internet, people don't know that like the thing they made 20 years ago, like people still care about it. And I'm just like, do people still care about that thing? And I'm like, yes, they do. They want to hear you talk about it. And then they're just like, the people love me. They really do. And I'm like, of course, yeah, of course they did. Like, come on. So I think it's kind of like,
You brought them so much happiness when they were young. Of course
yeah,
they love you.
yeah, like don't be, it's, everyone loves you. Stop doubting yourself. It's fine. So kind of like, that's the idea. So, I guess I'll let Lauren lead the questions because she knows you, and then I'll just interject rudely as I hear things that we want to talk about. But Lauren, you wrote the outline, so I guess why don't you go ahead and we can talk animation, my favorite thing. So.
All right, so I guess like first question, why? No.
Why do you exist?
But really,
Well, it started when I was a young little baby and my dad realized he wasn't going to have a USC quarterback on his hands.
it's like, yeah, because I mean, animation. It's funny how much bigger a deal it's become to be in the animation industry now versus like, I mean, even when I was born, like it was it was during the Renaissance of Disney and all that stuff, and the primetime animation and adult animation, all that. But before that, there wasn't like a huge demand. It wasn't a huge influx. So it was like, for every generation, there seems to be a different inspiration as to why they want to go into animation. What inspired you to pursue animation and story, and what got you into storyboarding?
What inspired me to get into animation, I have like a really weird route to where I ended up. Because when I started college, I wanted to be a 3D animator, which is a little different than a storyboard director. But I mean, I always knew that I always liked art and drawing. And before I could really like draw for myself, I would make every adult that I knew draw on whatever kind of paper they had, whether it was like, a paper grocery bag or whatever it was. But so I always loved art. Like my dad literally tells this story. He's like, I realized very early on that I didn't have a quarterback on my hands.
Oh, I thought you were kidding. That's adorable.
I am not kidding. And I was very fortunate that my dad, my parents were very supportive of, me pursuing my passions. But like like I said, it's a weird route in. The first time I became like aware that animation was like something I could do when I grew up it was like probably 99. and I was watching like a TV special about the making of Star Wars Episode 1, and they were talking about just all the computer animated characters, and like for whatever reason I must have been like both old enough, and however they explained it, like it clicked to me like, wait, this is something adults can do for a living. And then like from that point on, all through high school, I'd go to like summer camp and start to learn like the fundamentals of like 3D animation. And then when I went to college at Loyola Marymount, I really, my focus when I started there was going to be 3D animation. But then while I was at LMU, I realized that like I actually enjoyed storyboarding also, and I was not bad at it. My drawings weren't good, but kind of my sense of storytelling, I think, was always, pretty strong. But then like what really caused me to abandon my dreams of being a 3D animator, where I got a summer job through one of the professors. He's like, "Hey JJ, do you want a job?" There's literally like, it was like June, like we were a month into summer, and I get a call from him, and he's like, "Hey, do you want a job?" I'm like, "What?" Yeah. And so I ended up spending the summer between junior and senior year working on Foodfight.
Oh wow! Because the studio was based out in Santa Monica, right?
Yeah, it was in like Hollywood, and so it was like, yeah, it was on like Santa Monica Boulevard in La Brea.
Okay,
and
yeah, I know exactly where that is.
Yeah, it was like a block north of La Brea and like 2 blocks south of. It isn't like a warehouse. It was like, I think part of it was a warehouse, and then it had like an attached like secondary like second floor office, and so it was just like one room with a bunch of people who were officially we were motion capture cleanup artists, but the motion capture had been done so ineptly that our animation director would say, "JJ, here's your scene. Just delete all the keyframes and redo it so it looks good." So I spent a year, or not a year, I spent a summer working on that, and man, I really came away from that going, 3D animation, like being a 3D animator, this is not for me.
Can you, in your own
This
words,
just in Foodfight killed 3D animation for me.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But I ended up for my senior year of college, or I had already taken Jay Oliva's storyboarding class my junior year.
You survived.
I don't know how I survived that semester. I had like 24 units, I think.
Before we move
It was
on,
insane.
before we move on, can you describe in your own words like what Foodfight is for people who aren't aware of it?
Foodfight is what happens when somebody sees Shrek and goes, "Hey, I want to make a movie that rides that line also," but they don't. But it's like, it's too juvenile to appeal to adults, but it's too like crass to be marketable to kids. And so you get Foodfight, and basically like it's like one of the selling points of that movie was like like I think they had to pull back some of it, but like at one point it was almost every character in the movie except like the actual protagonist characters were like product placement characters. And so I think one of the I think, oh damn, what was that character?
Which one?
There was a bird, and I can't remember what brand it was.
Oh, I think are you thinking of the stork?
Yeah.
Like for Vlasic?
Yeah, Vlasic Stork. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it would be like random,
It's
like
the pickles,
licensed
right?
characters like that, and so basically the story of Foodfight is a generic brand is taking over the aisles at a grocery store, so all the name brands have to fight the brand X. It's madness. It's such a bad movie. But one of my fondest memories of working on it was like at the end of the first week, the director, or not the director of the film, the supervisor at the company I was at, just like he bought a bunch of beers at lunch and brought them back to the studio, and he goes, "All right, everyone, gather around. We have all of the raw, like they'd done like a play blast of the movie from the motion capture, like the raw motion capture. So we watched like the movie as a play blast, and everyone was just like just staring in horror, like, oh my god, what are you doing?" But like it's funny, but like it's funny because you hear a movie like Food Fight and it seems like where careers go to die. But I know, but like one of the guys there he was like one of the pioneers of motion capture, and he would roll in at like 3 p.m. and just kind of like work his own hours, but he was so good at what he did that he just knocked everything out. But he was like literally taking calls. This is 2007. So he was literally taking calls from James Cameron, not like James Cameron's assistant, from James Cameron, trying to get him to work on Avatar. And so through that connection, a couple of the guys that worked on Food Fight ended up working on Avatar, including another guy from LMU that I know. And then through that, he ended up working at Weta. And so he worked on like all the Hobbit movies and stuff like that, all because he worked on Food Fight.
So Food Fight didn't kill absolutely everything in its path.
No. And my favorite thing about it is like when we were working on it, it had like really like top tier talent, but by the time it came out, almost everybody's like sun had set. And so everybody was has-been by the time it finally came out, like 7 years later or something like that. Like Charlie Sheen was like an A-list celebrity when it was recorded, but he had his meltdown by the time it came out. And then Hilary Duff was like at the peak of her fame at that point, but then 7 years later it's like, oh yeah, her.
And then Eva Longoria was at the time like super popular in Desperate Housewives, and then by the time the movie came out, like Desperate Housewives was long gone.
Yeah, one of the guys I worked with, the first Michael Bay Transformers came out like while we were working on it, and he snuck into a premiere party for it and saw Wayne Brady there, and Wayne Brady voiced Daredevil Dan in Food Fight, and he goes, "Yo, hey Wayne, I'm working on one of your movies." He goes, "Oh yeah, which one?" He goes, "Food Fight," and just turns away from him.
Oh no.
But yeah, that's so. I can't even remember how I got talking about Food Fight. Oh yeah.
Oh, I asked you
Food
about
Fight's
it. I was
the
like,
reason
tell
I
me
didn't
about
become
Food
a CG
Fight,
animator.
and you're just like, let me hear it. Like, let me tell you the legacy of Food Fight, young children.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was part of his origin story, and so, in turn, the biggest reveal of all was that LMU got you hooked into Food Fight.
Yeah, because one of the professors, like, I think his daughter went to school with the daughter of the guy that owned the company who was, like, doing this motion capture cleanup. And so, he's like, "Hey, do you got any like students I can hire cheap to work for his summer?" And he's like, "Oh yes."
That's
Sure
amazing.
do. Not the worst job I got from a professor either. Not even close.
God.
But anyway, so to skip ahead a little bit, after Food Fight, I'm like, screw being a CG animator. This isn't for me. And so I really started I had taken Jay Oliva's storyboarding class in my junior year. And I'm like, I really like storyboarding. I love cartoons. And so I think I'm going to pursue this. So I worked, I worked hard on my senior year, trying to start going down that path. And then I graduated in 2008, and my drawings weren't very good. And I literally went to Comic-Con, I think that year or the year after, and got a portfolio review, and the guy's looking at it and goes, "Have you ever taken a figure drawing class?" And I'd taken 4 years. I had a degree in animation, so that was humbling. But yeah, like after that, I was pretty laser focused on becoming a storyboard artist, and so I started taking a lot of classes at Concept Design Academy, just drawing every day, hanging out with other artists so that I would actually draw more, and eventually, like, I got my foot in the door as a PA, actually. And through there, I just kept networking, kept practicing, had my coworkers kind of look at my samples and give me feedback. And eventually, and so that was Young Justice. I was a PA on Young Justice. And when that was winding down, I'd actually reached out to a friend on Transformers Prime to see if they needed storyboard artists, because a few of my friends were rolling off of Young Justice at that time. And I was like, oh, maybe they're looking for a board artist there. And she's like, no, but we're looking for a revisionist. I'm like, oh, wait, no, I can do that. And so I ended up applying and getting that job.
And how did you get your foot in the door as a PA? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. I got my foot in the door as a PA through, actually, it was through somebody I had interned with. He must have been a coordinator where I was interning. But I kept in touch with him, and he emailed me one. He emailed me one as like fall of 2010. Said, "Hey, it's not an art job, but we need a PA at Warner Brothers." And so I interviewed for that job, and I was super excited. And then I went to get drinks with one of my best friends from college, Matt Mahoney, and he's like, "Dude, Corey called me. He said they had a job at Warner Brothers, and I interviewed for it." I'm like, "Wait, was it for this?" As I realized that I was like vying for the same job as one of my best friends, and he ended up getting that job. So he started it was like September of 2010, but then like 3 months later, the same guy messages me. He goes, "Hey, we got another job. Are you interested?" And so that's how I started on Young Justice. I stepped into the interview, and they're like, well, Jay Oliva was a director on the show. And he goes, "Well, Jay says you're an all right guy, and Corey vouches for you. So, yeah, let's do it."
That sounds like a pity hire. It's like, well, I guess people like you, like, come on.
Yeah. And so I was on Young Justice for probably, I think they were probably 2/3 of the way through season 1. I think they were boarding episodes 18 and 19 and 20. And then, because they had just finished, they had finished boards on the on at least 16, which is the imaginary invasion one, the one where it's all like, it's like a simulation. They had already done that one, but I think they were working on the harm episode and on the Kid Flash episode. Was it Cold Hearted or something? It's episode 20. But yeah, and so then I was on that all the way through season 2.
Wow. That is it's just like amazing to see how things like pick up once you get in there. It's just like, and then just another gig comes in and another gig comes in, and it's just like, and then you're just like, okay, I know.
It's such a small industry. Everybody knows everybody.
There's a lot of people in it, and yet it's very tight.
Oh,
it's kind of unreal. Like, everybody knows each other through like 2 degrees of separation, probably.
Let me ask you this, because this is something I'm like, oh God, when I think about industry stuff. Are you ever afraid that like something you do that is like can be misinterpreted, and then you like worry about it like all night, being like, oh God, I meant to do that thing, but I hope that doesn't cross about that thing, because then my career will be over. So I do that a lot.
I try very hard to be tactful at work so that doesn't happen. because that would be a very big
Yeah.
fear. Not being understood, saying something that was misunderstood, or misconstrued. And so yeah, I try pretty hard, especially in the workplace, to be exceedingly professional. You know, with my buddies, I'm more comfortable, and then they see the guy who likes fart jokes and college humor. But I try to keep that. I try to keep that separate. But I mean, when I'm actually working with buddies, that line gets, yeah, that comes out a little bit at work. But yeah, I mean,
I feel that.
one of my buddies from college he works at Warner Brothers, and was working with my director from Transformers, and he's like telling stories about me from college, and my director was like, JJ? Really? Him? And so when I heard that, I'm like, oh, thank God. I fooled him.
I've been wearing a mask this whole time.
Yeah.
Helps me write the turtles.
Yeah.
Okay, there's my bad joke.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did working on those previous projects help you prepare you for your roles with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
I think one good thing is I think by the time I started on Turtles, I had been working professionally for it was 2.5 years probably. And so I had gotten, I kind of figured out how, I don't know, how do I want to say it? I'd kind of figured out just
flow?
how to function as a professional, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. How to for example, when I'm talking with a director whose work I recognize, how not to become a stumbling mess and go, Mr. I love you.
I just love you so much.
Yeah, it's after 2.5 years, I'd kind of learned, I kind of developed those skills, or I developed them enough that I could function on Turtles, which was helpful because I started the show. They were working on halfway through season 2 of 2012 Turtles, and so I was a massive fan of the show. When on my first day, I'm where are the finished episodes? And I found out that they were basically finishing episodes and then airing them. So they didn't have any finished episodes that I hadn't seen yet.
It's the one. It's the one perk,
Yeah. And so what I did, so the coordinator was here's all the animatics. You can catch up with them. And so she walks by later that day, and she's like, oh my God, you're already in season 2? Well, I'd already seen the first 24 episodes of season 1. But yeah, so I don't, just kind of already having my, kind of knowing how to function professionally allowed me not to embarrass myself when I actually started working on, my dream property. And, it was an iteration of Turtles that I was already just head over heels in love with. And, then I rode that show out from, I started, the first episode I worked on was the mid-season finale of season 2, the part 1 of the Manhattan Project, or I think they ended up calling it Wormquake. Just the Manhattan Project when I was working on it. So I kind of did some shipping notes on that, and then I worked all the way until until the very end of season 5.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it went on for so long.
Yeah, it's especially probably for anybody who binges the show in one go or whatever, it's it goes by so quickly, but it was a lot of story and action that they had packed into the series in a handful of years. It was just amazing.
Yeah, it ended up being what, it's 120 episodes or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
And became so beloved, and it's so nice to see anytime there is an incarnation of the Turtles that there is always no matter what, there's a base for it. there was
Yeah.
always a fan following for it, because as long as there are people who love Turtles, there's going to be people who love the show in any of its incarnations, whether it be a new
Yeah.
generation or ones driven by the nostalgia of a previous generation. And
Yeah.
so it's I love it. It's been going on for so long, and it'll just keep going on. It's great.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I'm in like a number of Turtles fan groups. I've been on the Technodrome forum for like a decade at
Oh,
this
so you're
point.
like hardcore.
Oh yeah, there's photos of me at the Out of Their Shell tour. I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Nice.
I was that generation of kids that they decided to market an adult comic to. Like they
Yeah.
saw Ninja Turtles, the Mirage, independent comic, and said, "Hey, there's all these kids that would love to buy toys of this." And I was that generation of kids. I was born in 86, so I was like 4 or 5 years old when like Turtle Mania was hitting
Mhm.
its peak. So it's like, oh yeah, dude,
It's like in your blood.
I have like ooze
Yeah.
for blood. Yeah.
So my follow-up question.
You
I
got,
bleed
you got sewer
green.
slime
So
in
my
your
follow-up
blood.
question, do you
Yeah,
actually
it's-
own a turtle?
A pet turtle? No, I have 3
Okay.
cats though.
Yeah, he has cats. And they're all very cute cats.
I spam my poor Facebook with cat photos.
It's like, I don't always go onto Facebook, but when I do, every time he has a new picture up, and I'm like, oh, there's my fix.
Something good in the world.
Oh, we need that.
I do have lots of turtle toys though.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, I that just sounds like neat. Like, I think I kind of dodged a bullet because I was trying really hard to like be around the live action Kim Possible like thing, and then I was stupid and I had a contact that like was like, "Hey, I got you some stuff from the premiere," and I'm like, "Oh, I should have just asked you about that. Duh." So, but yeah, I think that didn't turn out that great. So I think I dodged a bullet, but I can like empathize with just like, "Oh man, I'm exactly where I wanted to be when I was 5. Yeah, living the dream."
Well, like the cool thing about turtles is like every, like I said, I'm part of all these like fan groups, and I see people like there's people of all ages who entered the fandom and the franchise through like different entry points, and even like entry points that aren't as
Mhm.
beloved. I think the only one I don't really see a lot of people who are like the thing made me fall in love with Turtles was Next Mutation. I don't see that one very often, but like I see a bunch of people who are like, yeah, those movies that Michael Bay produced, that's what made me like fall in love with Turtles, and that was my entry point. And now there's like a whole generation of people who are like, I didn't care about Turtles until Rise came out, and now I love it more than my family. So it's like there's all these. It's cool because it is such a like long running franchise with so many different
Mhm.
versions and most of the versions are pretty good. And so there's people with all sorts of different entry points
That's
to it.
fair. I guess my
Yeah.
follow-up question is: it like intimidating when you're taking on a new iteration? And you're just like, "Oh God, we're gonna change stuff. I hope they don't hate me." I know that's not your decision directly, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
was just curious, like, what that environment is like.
Well, I mean, definitely, like starting on Rise, I love Turtles and I loved it forever. And looking at some of the decisions, it's like, wow, that's very different. But you kind of see what they wanted to, like some of the changes they made. You see why they did it and what they
Mhm.
planned to do, and that got me
Mhm.
excited about it. Like for example, like the Splinter story. You look at his starting point compared to like what Splinter is, traditionally is as a character, and it's a very different starting point. But
Mhm.
what's great about it is that it starts him at a place where he has runway to grow, and as the show unfolds, it's actually I love the backstory for Splinter and Rise. It's really different, and it's really I found it really engaging and exciting, and there's a lot of like kind of depth and
Mhm.
layers to it. And so I found like so like on the surface, when you watch episode 1 of Rise and you meet Splinter sitting on the sofa chair drinking milk out of the carton, it's like, wow, that is not the sensei that I know. But then
Exactly.
as the show unfolds, you wouldn't have the same journey with Splinter if he started as the sensei you knew. And then you told the story about, his time as a prisoner in the Battle Nexus. And then you told about, everything he lost when he became the mutant rat. And, it would just be a different story if he kind of started at a different, at a different place. And I think, Splinter's story is one of my favorite parts of Rise. I mean, I think on Twitter, some of the fans have been doing like, they'll have like different like themes every day. And like last week, it was like, what's your favorite storyline in Rise? And for me, it's Splinter, because it is so different, but it is so like honest. I think I just really resonated with it, and I love him as a character, and I'm going to miss him dearly when I finally move on from Rise.
That's
Yeah, and I like that. I like that there's, when you have somebody like Splinter who has become cemented in the turtle story in other incarnations, is he's kind of like, he is, as the sensei, he's kind of like the all-knowing, he's the wise one, he's put together, but I like that Rise went that different direction in how they first introduce him, because then it shows you're gonna get something entirely different this time, but still gonna be true to what was established in his story and in who he is as a character in the universe. So it's like, I like that they went that different direction for him.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know. I think for me, 2012 Turtles is like the perfect version of traditional Ninja Turtles. So like, I don't even know how you follow that up with another version of traditional Ninja Turtles, because then you're just going to be making decisions, like you're going to be making creative decisions that are like different because Ciro and Brandon did it perfectly already, and so it's like, well, I guess we got to do it a little differently then. Whereas I think the best call, I think going the direction Rise did was a great call, because it's like, we just did classic Turtles perfectly. Let's think about what else this franchise could be. And it went in such a different direction and really committed to it. There were no half measures when it came to, like there's times where you see something that's like different, but it's actually kind of the same. But Rise really committed to the new characters, the new storylines, kind of the new concepts. And I think, to me, that's why I love it. I mean, I love both Rise. I love Rise as much as I love 2012. But like I said, 2012 is the perfect version of classic Turtles, and I think Rise, to me, is like the perfect alternative,
right?
Or the kind of the perfect like alternate like take of like what this franchise could
right
be.
Like you're almost forced to kind of do something that drastically different, because what other options are there, because the other there's a version that people want that already exists, so you're either just going to remake it or you're going to do something different. So
yeah, like I don't know, like if this was another version of 2012, I mean, I worked on 2012 for 3.5 years, and it's like, oh wow, I did it. I don't want to run into a situation where it's like, oh wow, I kind of did this scene 3 years ago. I guess I got to do it the same but different.
Yeah,
that never happened on Rise, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, I've seen I know a brief amount of Rise, and I just see the storyboard test, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's like cray. So I noticed that some of the storyboard tests and some shots go viral because of just like how intricate they are, and for someone who doesn't have much context, it's like it's great.
Yeah, like when I started on the show and I saw what they were doing, I was like, oh my god, I gotta start like working out. I don't know if I can keep up with this.
It's like it goes from 0 to 100 real fast, because of, especially when you think of the pace of Rise, it's so different from other incarnations. It is so lightning fast, and the action is so snappy, and it's just like, I mean, it's it just blows you against the wall with how much action they can pack into one fighting sequence, let alone, if you have, boss battles like with the, like in Shreddy or not. It's like you have those just incredible, just it blows my mind just seeing how much work goes in choreography, and everything goes into those kinds of sequences. And it was nothing I'd ever seen out of the Turtles before, and it just was. But it was like, it's an adrenaline rush. It's a roller coaster ride, and you never want to get off when you watch something like Rise, because it's like an adrenaline pump.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I would literally just like spy on the board artists, like, oh, what are they drawing now? Oh my god, that looks amazing. Oh, that's crazy. Oh man, now I gotta go do my scene. Crap.
Oh my god. So like, were you around, or were you like a fly against the wall as far as like developing the visual style? Like, how much like involvement did you have in that? And like,
I think the show is in development while we were wrapping up 2012 Turtles, so I had very little to do with that. I came on, my first episode was production number
Okay.
10. So they had done, it was, the 10th episode they produced. And I think they had animatics for, I think, the first 11-minute episodes, and they boarded things a little out of order. So they boarded episodes like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think, first. Then they did 1 and 2, and then they did 9 and 10. So when they were doing 10, they were also, I think they had just pitched Mystic Mayhem, the series premiere. And so like my first week, everyone was like, oh my god, JJ, you gotta see this fight scene that this new kid Kevin did. And I look at it, I'm like,
Yeah, Kevin Molina Ortiz.
Holy crap.
Another LMU alum, by the way, for listeners. Kevin was another LMU alum, and he was bonkers talented when I remember back at school.
Were you guys there at the same time?
Yeah, I believe he was the year behind me, and he was absolutely incredible. And then the more stuff he worked on by himself, and like the animax he would just post just for fun that he would do, I'm like, golly, this kid. and so then when I saw him paired up on Rise, I'm like, there is no more perfect show for him than this. And to see his animatics get shared through Nickelodeon's page and stuff like that, showing like, the side by sides of, some storyboard to final, so that they show how much he does. And then he also boarded the didn't he do the animatic for the opening sequence? I think just to give you a taste of his stuff. He's really, really good with the fast-paced stuff, guys. So go check him out.
He's good with literally every part of storytelling. Like, there are not many board artists who can juggle action, who can juggle comedy, who can juggle character, who can juggle emotion, who can juggle all of those things seamlessly. There are a lot of people who are good at some of them, and like fine at the other parts, but like he is so good at all of it. And like you study, like honestly, like his boards are like so next level that like I actually, when I'd have freelancers, I usually wouldn't give them Kevin's boards, because this is totally me projecting from when I was on 2012 and studying Sheldon's boards. I would look at the flashy stuff, and my eye would be drawn to that, and I go, oh, I got to do that. But I wasn't actually looking at the underlying thought behind every decision that led into and out of that flashy moment. And I feel like Kevin's work, all the stuff that gets shared is, his Sakuga moments. But like when you look at his episodes, he has such a mastery of storytelling, of character, of comedy, of action that like I feel like people don't truly appreciate like how fucking brilliant that kid is.
Yeah. Just like, and anytime I just saw him get brought up, it was like for the show. I'm just like, I knew it. He's just going to slay it. And then the moment I would just see the clip happen, I'm like, yep. He slayed it. I'm on the floor now. He's really good. So
yeah. But like, dude, that whole crew was so good.
Especially from every aspect, you could tell it was just everything was poured into it. Flying Bark studio for their animation too. On top of that, they were so good.
Oh, we got so lucky. A lot of the board artists, or a lot of the storyboard team, boards revisions were this was their first job, and I would tell them like Thursdays, that was animation day. That's when Flying Bark would send their takes for the week in. And we'd always just snoop on the server and watch it and just gush about how good it looked. And I'd always tell the team, like, don't get used to it. Your next job probably won't look this good. We're spoiled on Rise.
Yeah.
How was it working with it? How was it working with them?
It was really nice knowing that you could trust the studio to do a good job with your storyboard. That hasn't always been the case. There have been times where, you pour your heart into a scene, this is on other shows. You pour your heart into a scene and it comes back and it just looks like somebody picked up a turd and smeared it on a piece of paper. But like Flying Bark, even your most like embarrassing and shameful drawings, like they make it all look so good. And they put so much love into it that it's just fantastic. I love them. Huge fan. Huge fan.
Okay, and can you define kind of the breakup between like studio and storyboarding for people who don't know the pipeline?
So basically like in animation, most animation, especially like most Western animation, is going to be like pre-production is in the United States. And so that'll be your writing, your storyboarding, your animatic editing, and then your did I say voice recording? That too, if I didn't. All of that stuff is part of your kind of the pre-production process, and all of that gets shipped to an animation studio. 19 out of 20 times it's going to be in another country. Mm-hmm. A lot of animation is done in Korea, Canada. Flying Bark is in Australia. Mm-hmm. So it gets sent to, gets outsourced. So the animation production is when you actually get people taking the storyboards, translating that to like background and character layouts, then actual like keyframe and in between animation, cleanup, color, and I think comp is also typically handled by your outsourced studio. And comp is just that extra layer of polish that goes on the picture. Sometimes it'll be like a subtle kind of like it'll be like filters, or sometimes like a rim light that's kind of not necessarily hand drawn, but sometimes they'll do like a layer offset to create like a rim light. Or sometimes if anything, like a glow needs processing to make it, rather than just being like a white laser sword, to actually have that kind of like bloom on it to make it look like it's glowing. That's all part of the comp. And so those things are part of the animation production. Then that footage gets sent back for post-production, and post-production is going to be your actual picture editing. So editing the final picture together to the actual broadcast, time, which for us was I think 10:45. And then that's when any ADR that needs to happen is done as part of post. That's when your sound design and your score is done, and then ultimately all compiled and delivered and finally aired. And then all that post-production is, in my experience, done back in the United States.
Right. Because you have to deal with the voice actors that sent their lines, so,
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it remotely, but I imagine it's harder than just, like, being in a studio and, like, giving voice
Well,
direction.
we're
and
finding
stuff.
out. We're finding out in COVID times.
That is valid.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about how the animation industry is, going full steam ahead in the COVID times. But there's definitely a couple of roadblocks. There are certain things that, there wasn't really there were certain things that were just the way you did it was built around being there in person. And part of that was, like voice records. 'Cause, you have a bunch of, you just record voices in a recording studio with expensive recording equipment. And typically, directors and producer, well, not director, episode directors, usually producers, sometimes writers will be there, and a voice director, and everyone's there directing the talent. And then suddenly no one can be within 6 feet of each other, let alone in a studio or a confined room together. And the entire industry had to figure out, okay, how do we do this part remote?
Mm-hmm.
But most studios have figured it out. A lot of studios have gotten, or a lot of the actors have, as far as I understand, a lot of actors took kind of the initiative to get their own setups, and then the ones who didn't, studios kind of helped get them set up, and so they could do broadcast quality recording at from home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's neat. It's interesting to study how this is affecting everything, but
it really is. Yeah, it's
like one
it's
day
been
at a
trip.
time, I guess.
Yeah, it's a trip. Like it's a lot of like unexpected. There's been a lot of unexpected challenges. In a weird way, the transition was actually a lot more seamless than I would have expected. But yeah, there's just like little weird unexpected challenges that I've found. Just kind of like, like launching a storyboard remotely is ultimately it's exactly how you would launch a freelancer who's not in Burbank. It's you set up a call with them, or you just do a detailed email breaking down the scene, and that's not too different. But like it's all like the little interpersonal things. Like looking at revisions is like the big one that I think of a lot. Because before, like my revisionist would say, "Hey JJ, I finished that thing," and I'd just go to their desk and they'd flip through it, and I'd say, "Oh, fix that one panel," but otherwise just drop it in my folder. And it's like a 5-minute process, but now it's like you gotta schedule calls, and you gotta upload things to and from the server, and you gotta keep track of things on your own computer as well as on the server. And so there's like this like file management angle to it that's like just extra important now because everybody is remote, and so it's like the little things that I found have been challenging. That and edit sessions, like animatic edits. We started using a program called Evercast, which has been really nice. But I know like when we were about to start animatic edits remote, I like called friends at other studios. I'm like, "Hey, how are you guys doing this? Is there like a good way to do that?" And they're like, no, there's no good way to do this. Save yourself trouble, time the storyboards yourself so the timing's exactly how you want it, and you're not trying to noodle, like 2 frames off of something when you're getting 4 frames of lag from your from your internet connection. And I'm like, oh no. Like I called one friend, and they're like, yeah, like this edit session that should have been 3 hours was 7. So yeah, it's like little things like that which have been really affected. But I mean, we've been doing this for over 6 months now, and it's pretty smooth, at least from my perspective in the industry, or I guess from my perspective from all the angles I can see, it's running smooth in my experience now.
That's good.
Yeah, now that you got the hang of it.
Yeah.
So something I might have missed, but like let me back up a little bit. So like as a director, like so from storyboarder to director, what is like what is your job detail and what is the difference? Because, you know, I guess the line is kind of blurry as far as like usually how much visual control a storyboarder has versus like what the director wants. So I guess like how do you usually deal with that?
The way I kind of joke about it is like, if my storyboard artist did a good job, then I have the easiest job in the world. But yeah, really, where do you start? So I guess looking at let's just take a random episode and say, this is kind of what my responsibility on an episode is. Usually when the first, second, and record draft come in, I'll take a look at them, and I'll on my show I was able to flag any concerns that I had, and so that we could talk about it while the writers were still working on the episode. And any concern that I voiced was ultimately considered and then just decided on by the producers and the writers. You know, it's not, I didn't have any power to like dictate, this doesn't work, we are going to do this instead. It's like, no, I could say, hey, like, I got a concern about this scene. You have like 3 beats that are doing the same thing. I think it's going to be redundant. Can we fold all of these into like one action? It would be, you know, kind of stuff like that. Or, hey, like, this character kind of like disappears for 3 pages. Like, you know, what's happening here? And just trying to like flag things that it would be mostly concerns like, oh, like I've worked on enough of these episodes that that's a problem that we've run into before. Let's see if we can head it off at this time. So, you know, I would kind of give kind of my initial thoughts on the drafts of the script. But then once the record draft was in, it was then my responsibility to take it and hand it out to the storyboard artists. And that's basically the way I handled it. Was I read the script and I would flag anything in particular that I wanted to see. Like, for example, like if there was something, like I might say, oh, for this scene, look at this particular scene in Gremlins. They did a really good job of this, and this. So like try to capture those elements of this scene when you're working on this. And so I try to put the storyboard artist in the right headspace for the scene, and in particular for anything that I wanted to see out of the episode in particular. Then send the board artist off for 3 weeks or so, let them do their thing. And then we would do a rough storyboard pitch. And that's when we would take a look at what the storyboard artist has done so far. And in theory, it would be a rough version of the entire episode. And at that point, I would then go, okay, I like this. You like take a look at, I would usually like take the scene and kind of do some notes. Say, all right, this particular scene, you have some like 180 line problems. Like you cross the 180 line here. So let's maybe like restage it like this so we don't have that problem. Or like, hey, like the geography is a little unclear. It's basically me taking all of my storyboard skills and making sure that the storyboard is clear, and up to the standard that I personally have. The other part to it is the producers would also do a launch for the episode where they flag anything that they particularly want to see or need to see in the episode. And so my other job is kind of making sure that the producers' needs are serviced. And so that's probably my most important job, because like, ultimately it's not my episode. It's the producers. And so like, if they want me to reference, I don't know, if they want me to reference Cinderella for this fight scene, I'll go, all right, let's
If
try
you
to
say
reference
so.
Cinderella for a fight scene. That's just a random weird thing I pulled out of my butt. But
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing. Like, ultimately it's my job to make sure that the producer's vision, or the producers see what they want to see out of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
So then also at the rough pitch, the producers give their feedback. They'll say, hey, this wasn't clear. Hey, you didn't really get this character thing right. Or, hey, I really like the scene you did here. Let's make sure to set that up earlier on. And yeah, so it's, again, making sure that my personal vision for the episode gets executed, while also making sure that the producer's more important vision gets executed. And then also, I try not to steamroll the board artists. I want them to have ownership over the episode. And so a lot of times I'll try to look at what they're trying to do, and try to find out and try to help them make that work best.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there will be like, oh, like I would have done something differently, but like I see what you're doing here, and rather than throwing out what you've done and just redoing it myself, because I don't have time to do that, and I don't want to do that. It's like, oh, like if we do this, this, and this, that's gonna make what you're going for work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of my responsibility on the front end, on the actual while a storyboarding on an episode is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Then once the clean storyboards are turned in, I will that gets sent to the editor, and I am responsible for making sure the animatic is presentable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll sit with the editor. I'll make sure that the timing is right. I'll make sure that any kind of temp music is kind of servicing the story correctly. Make sure that any kind of temp sound effects aren't, making sure they're all in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the clean storyboards are in and I'm watching it, I'll usually do a quick pass of revisions to kind of catch anything. I kind of call them the 911 notes, like the real emergencies. Like, oh, if they see that, they're going to be upset. I'm going to fix that so they don't see that and get upset by it. Because sometimes they'll explicitly say, do not reference Gremlins for this scene. And then it's like, uh-oh, that looks like a Gremlins scene. And I don't know why I'm picking on Gremlins. I love that movie. But yeah, no. And so it's making sure that first animatic is as good as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Then once we screen first animatic, it'll be the producers and the network executives. And so that'll be a new round of notes from the producers and the execs. And it'll be my responsibility to work with the revisionist and make sure all of those notes get implemented, as well as any personal notes that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes like an action scene won't get any notes, but I'll say, oh, actually, I think we can punch this up a little bit, make it a little more exciting and dynamic. Or, oh, like, let's just fine tune this a little bit. And so really, like, so for second animatic and shipping animatic, it's just refining the episode, making sure it's the best episode visually that it can be, and then also cutting it down to time. I'd say probably on average, my episodes at first animatic were 12 to 12 and a half minutes long, and they had to ship to Flying Bark at 11 minutes on the nose. So that was always a gigantic part of the process. Going, all right, we got to cut 90 seconds out of this episode. Where do we begin?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was, sometimes there were like, if you were lucky, there'd be like a 20-second dialogue exchange that you could just lift out. Yeah. But a lot of times it would be like, okay, let's cut like 6 frames here. Let's cut 20 frames here. Maybe if like let's just rethink how they enter this room so that it takes 5 seconds instead of 10. And then that'll be a big part of it, like making those cuts and then stitching it up so that you don't see the scars all over the episode.
Yeah, it's a lot of like less is more, trying to make that work.
I really didn't understand that as a storyboard artist, but like as soon as I started sitting in the edit bay, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. Because I was notorious for overboarding. Like I think my very first storyboard, my director like hazed me and gave me the third act for my very first storyboard. Once I got promoted from revisionist, and like the script had like it was like 5 like action scenes in this third act. It was crazy. It was a super dense third act. But I was too green to know how to like pace that correctly. So instead of like prioritizing them, I just did 5 different Act 3 fight scenes. And the first animatic, it was like, I think my section was like 13 or 14 minutes long in what should have been a 22-minute episode.
Jeez.
Yeah. And I kind of did a lot of that stuff until I became a director. And then like just actually having to sit and cut an episode, you get a really keen sense of what exactly is necessary to tell the story. And yeah, you get a really keen sense of exactly what is necessary. So when you're a board artist, you get really in your head about like like watching your like Sergio Leone reference and like, oh, but he has 45 seconds on this one shot of the 2 men staring each other down. I need that. And then when you're editing an episode down to 11 minutes, you're like, no, you don't. You need that 3 seconds of that, and then do just fine.
Oh, I know the feel. Like, you just kind of like shut out from reality and you're just like, no, it has to be this way because this is how I know perfection. And then like as soon as you get notes from other people, you're like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah. And like when you're cutting an episode down to time, it's like, all right, well, I mean, if you want that 45-second standoff, you got to cut it from somewhere else. Where are you going to cut it from? That opening scene that lays the groundwork for that standoff you want? Nope. It's like the crazy one was my last episode on the Rise series was Shreddy or Not. And it was an insane amount of story that we were cramming into 11 minutes. And like I had been working on this fight scene, and when we pitched it, Ant and Andy were like, this scene is way too long, dude. And I'm like, what? No, but like, dude, it is way too long. And so like I tried to cut it down and it was still like preposterously long. And so I ended up just having to like scrap what I did and rethink it in a way that would effectively tell the story in the time that I had. Because ultimately, like, it would be just irresponsible for me to turn in like a 5-minute fight scene in an 11-minute episode. Because like, what am I would have had to sacrifice all of the actual story that was happening at the top of the episode. And kind of like, there's some like really emotional, like decompression there's a really emotional cliffhanger at the end of the episode. And I wanted to, like, at the end of the day, punching is punching. I wanted to make sure I had time to milk the end of the episode to make sure they lose a character. And I wanted to make sure we had time to slow down and like let those moments linger and make the audience just feel the heartache. And so ultimately I'm like, all right, well, if I want that, then I can't have the long extravagant fight scene. So yeah, I was like, well, obviously the thing that people are going to remember is is the emotional gut punch. Literal punching is punching. Yeah. But it's that emotional stuff that like really lingers with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Sorry, I like this episode. It's turning out nice.
It's like getting actually
like we're such
really,
nerds, so we're just like every time we have like other people, well, not like anytime we have people that have like all these industry stories, people are like, oh, I rambled too long, was it boring? And Lauren and I are like, no, we love it, like
No,
it's fun.
this is fine. It's why we like to leave a big gap for anybody that wants to share those stories and share the process with us and talking about those kinds of things, because I mean it's all in the details. That's what makes each experience unique and different, and how it's like everybody could be in, like there could be a million storyboarders, but they each have a different story to tell of how they got into the industry, and you know what they do now, and their personal stories of like their first reviews or their worst reviews, and you know it's like so it's like so it's the no, we love that stuff. So trust me, you're not being a bother by it at all.
Oh,
It's fine.
I know I can drone on and on and on.
Go ahead, Lauren.
I was gonna say, but I guess what's good is it might actually be good to like even have this as a good wrap up question. At least is the last on my list that I do have is what advice, because I do like to ask this of our guests, because there are many young listeners on our podcast that listen to the podcast, and you know there may be aspiring artists or people who want to get into the industry, or they're in it and they're very young in it and don't know where else to go with it. What advice do you have for those who want to work in storyboarding and maybe even build up to like a storyboarding director position? You know, I know that's something that for a lot of people that are in the industry, they build up to it, and that sometimes they don't even ask for it. It just happens. But for anybody who is aspiring to be that big, or at least even aspiring to be a storyboard artist, what advice do you have?
The easiest thing is just love cartoons.
Consume all the cartoons.
Yeah, no, like really though, it's like just like if you're really young, you know, if you're like, you know, not going to college yet, like to take that time, just ingest as much like animation and film as you can. Because like what I do, like whenever I start a storyboard, I usually just watch reference for like 2 days just to like remind myself. Like I'll read a scene and go, oh, this is kind of like that scene in Ghostbusters, and then I'll watch that scene in Ghostbusters and dissect why I thought of it. Yeah, like that first step is just loving like visual storytelling and just watching as much as you can, to just build like it's like a visual library in your head of like how stories are told and the different ways you can tell a story. Because like there's so many different ways to approach the same page of script, that kind of your unique collection of things you love is what's going to make you unique as a storyboard artist. Like my storyboards look nothing like Kevin's because I have a completely different set of influences from Kevin. And Kevin's look nothing like Max Collins' storyboards because they have a different set of influences. And they're different from Christine Liu's, who's different from Morgan Hillerbrand, who's different from Alicia Chan, and you know everyone has their own unique influences that makes their voice, and that is gonna come from you just watching the shit you love. And so like, dude, if you want to pursue this, just ingest everything, and so you find out that the stuff you love, and then that's gonna like start to influence you and what makes you unique as a storyteller.
Yeah,
that's like the easiest thing. And then like after that, just like draw every single day, learn how to draw. Like right now is such an exciting time to like start becoming an artist, because you have like through social media, like you just have access to all the best people in the world. You know, not literally like messaging them and talking to them, but like you have access to their like Instagrams where they're going to post their art and their work, and you can study that and break that down, and you can learn how they're thinking and approaching something. And like the best exercise that I got kind of in that, when I was in that stage where I was learning, just building up my drawing skills so I could become a storyboard artist. One of my buddies started on Legend of Korra and gave me some animatics and was like, here. Oh no, it wasn't animatics. He had, what he did every day, he took screen grabs from the animatics and made these like picture collages. It was like 20 like thumbnails on like an 11 by 17 page. He gave me those and he goes, just trace these every day, and like for an hour in the morning, just trace them. That's what I do, and it's the best practice in the world. But like, you're not just like copying the picture, like you're trying to make the same lines that the artist is making, and you're trying to understand why they drew that line, and you're trying to understand their thought process in making every single line. Then when you go to start doing your drawings for the day, force yourself to make those same decisions. That way you're getting into the head of the masters. And so I started doing that. This is when I was on Transformers. I started doing Transformers Prime. I would do that like for an hour in the morning, and it was like the single biggest period of growth of my drawing skills of like my entire life. And so those are two really easy things that you can do to kind of start developing yourself as an artist. As for actually like breaking into the industry and starting a career, like that's harder. It's getting your foot in the door is really challenging because a lot of it is right place, right time. My foot in the door was through my internship. Like I mentioned, all those hours ago. I got my foot in the door through somebody I had interned for. And that got me a PA job. And then because of the people I knew at the PA job, that helped me get an in for Transformers. And actually, technically it's actually somebody I'd gone to Concept Design Academy with is who tipped me off that they had a revision slot open. And then one of my directors on Young Justice knew people on that show, and so they helped. They were kind enough to put in a good word for me. And then just the stars aligned for me to get that first art job.
Right.
But yeah, it's like there's no one way to actually get in. I mean, I guess this sounds silly to say, but like college is one route. You go to college and make sure you get an internship, because the thing I didn't quite understand about my internship was like, it's not just going and hanging out at a studio, but it is actually like the most valuable thing of an internship is your networking, because that is your first opportunity to spend time with professionals and for professionals to get to personally know you, so that when a job opens up, they think of you first,
right? And
say, hey, Conway's not working. Maybe he might be a fit for this entry-level job. So that's the thing I didn't quite understand about my internship. So I definitely didn't take full advantage of it. And it was just kind of dumb luck that like I kept in touch with this one dude from my internship.
Right.
But I definitely didn't talk to the storyboard artists as much as I should have, because I was super, super shy and intimidated. And like these people worked on, like, dude, the director of that project directed on, he's one of the producers of Gargoyles. It was Frank Parr was directing the project. I think he was one of the producers of Gargoyles. I think it was him and Wiseman. Or maybe he was one of the directors of Gargoyles. But anyway, he worked on Gargoyles, and I loved that show so much, and I was super intimidated by him. But yeah, it's I'm reluctant to say like to bring up the college route because like there are a lot of colleges that are really not worth the money you to pay to go
we
to
just had
college.
our last episode or whatever, a couple episodes ago, we just did an art school episode where we were discussing that. So yeah.
I can't I can't bring myself to say don't go to college. It's a waste of time and money, because I wouldn't be where I am without having gone to college.
Exactly.
But it's like it's a weird way like thing that it like put me in the right place at the right time to get my foot in the door. It and I met some of the right people through college. Like I wouldn't have this job. I wouldn't have my career without Jay Oliva, because Jay Oliva was blunt enough to tell me I still needed to keep working after college, keep working on my art, and he recommended Concept Design Academy to me. So I took his class again at Concept Design Academy, and then I took like David Coleman's character design class.
I love his stuff.
Yeah, he's so good. And Kevin Chen's like analytical figure drawing class, Peter Hahn's Viscom class. And so I kept taking classes there, basically taking an honest look at my art skills and finding my deficiencies. And I was lucky enough that I could take classes at Concept Design Academy to start helping me overcome those deficiencies. But like, I can't remember where exactly that was going, but it kind of sprung off of the college is kind of a touchy subject because it is so expensive. Like, God, it is so expensive. And, oh, so that's what it was. I can't quite bring myself to tell people, like, there have been times where parents have emailed me saying, hey, my kid wants to get into the animation industry. What college should they go to?
Right.
And my response is, like, any number, you can go to any number of colleges, but what you have to do is look at the faculty of that department and then look them up on IMDb. And you have to, and if you don't recognize any of the projects on, first off, if they don't have an IMDb page, red flag. Second off, if you don't recognize any of the projects on their IMDb page, no, that's another red flag. And then third, if their projects, if they don't have any like current projects in the last decade or 2 decades, that's another red flag.
Yeah.
That's not automatically disqualifying, because like one of my professors in college, I don't think she had worked in actual animation in quite a while, but she directed a feature film, and she was like a Disney animator in like the 80s. And so it's like, this is a person who is clearly qualified to work, even though they actually, look at IMDb, you recognize what they've done. It's like, this is a person who has some high profile credits. And so like, if you're getting people who it's like, I can't even find them on IMDb, I don't have any information on what they've done, or like, I don't recognize what they've done, that's a red flag for somebody who might be teaching because they can't be working, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you really have to look out for with art schools. Because like, if you have an entire faculty of people who with no industry experience, then what the hell are they teaching?
Right.
And you're going to be paying them tens of thousands of dollars a year to teach you something question mark? I don't know. That doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound like a good use of your money. You're better off sitting at home on Instagram tracing Joaquin and reuse drawings from Avatar. That's going to be a better use of your time and money. But the real benefit of college is kind of like the access to internships, and kind of the access, really like access it provides, and then also just the network. I mean, I know Lauren because we went to the same college years apart, but I think we connected through the LMU alum Facebook group, right? Or maybe Animation Club?
Yeah, and then we also attended screenings later on after that, when we had I think it was like an LMU Animation Club, and all the alums that came with it would go to movie screenings and stuff in Hollywood.
Yeah, the one at the Egyptian, right? The is it the Mexico Film Festival?
Yes. In awesome. I think that was 2015. Yeah.
Ooh, that was a long time ago. I don't like to think of that.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring it up, but you were like, I got a job in 2013. I'm just like, I graduated high school like around that time.
oh no, I'm getting to the age where I say, oh, don't tell me that. When I was on Young Justice, one of the directors, I was just casually talking to him about like kind of the stuff he'd worked on. He's like, oh yeah, I worked on the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. I'm like, wait, the Saturday AM one? He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, that was my favorite show when I was in second grade. And he's like, do not say that. God, I'm getting so old.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so that was a really long and rambly, not even remotely complete answer to your question.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. Because there are so many ways into the industry. And I think those first two things are like really essential. Just building your film library so that you can find out the kind of filmmaker you want to be. And then just practicing and studying every day so that you have the drawing chops to actually get a job. Those are so important. And those are two things you can do. Those are two things that are fun to do. Like you don't have to go to school to do those. Networking is it's so important, and it's so hard because most artists are like introverted weirdos. and I say that from a very personal place because every single extroverted bone in my body is learned behavior. I am not that. I do not have an it is all learned behavior. I'm not extroverted by nature at all. This is like I've just had to learn how to do that, like just over years and years and years and years. I've just learned how to talk to people. And so when I say artists are introverted weirdos, I say that like mostly thinking of myself and how hard it was for me to force myself to network first to go to events where I could network, then to talk to people at those events that I don't know.
Oh, tell me about it.
Oh my God. It was like my internship was I was just like so like meek and scared of talking to anybody that I would basically only talk to like the PA and the coordinator who like worked above me. And then like there were like two like board artists who were particularly friendly and outgoing who I talked to. Oh, and a color designer who was particularly friendly and made a point to kind of like talk to me because he could clearly tell that I was just like a deer in the headlights. But networking is such an important part of getting into the industry because every time you see a job posting, like if a job posting goes up for my show, that I've known about that vacancy for weeks already. And I'm already reaching out to my friends saying, hey, do you know anyone? Or, hey, are you available? And there's like a decent chance that the job, if it hasn't been filled yet, that they are already people on their radar.
Right.
They're trying to fill it. So really like the networking, I don't know. I see some people, I used to joke that it was like, animation just like runs on raw nepotism. But like I'm actually seeing people like saying that seriously now, and that's not correct. Like in my whole, in my career, I have one very clear memory of somebody who was just a nepotism hire. But like most of the time you have to have the skills to do the job also.
Right.
And the networking is going to give you like a head of the line pass for being considered for a job. But like, dude, I'm not going to hire somebody who can't do the job. I have enough on my plate already. I don't have time to do two people's jobs just because they're my buddy.
Right.
And like, dude, it definitely happens. Like I said, I know one very specific memory from my career of somebody who was best friends with a producer. But yeah, like networking is so vital because that'll just put you on people's radar so that when there is a job opening, they think of you. And like one thing you can do is Animation Guild has been doing portfolio reviews. There have been people like there's been people who do go to CTN and do free portfolio reviews outside of CTN.
God bless.
Because
like,
paying for portfolio reviews is it's like it's already hard enough for young artists trying to get seen that they have to pay to be seen. It's like, no, just find another artist, get some feedback.
I've got opinions about CTN.
Yeah,
there's a reason I sat in McDonald's and gave free portfolio reviews last year.
Last year I worked staff at CTN. It was an interesting experience. We'll just leave it at that.
I hear so many people with so many horror stories of like being volunteers at CTN.
This was the first year they paid, to be fair, because I guess they probably...
And that was 2019?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For this convention that's been going, at least a decade at that point? So,
that's why
it only took them a decade to start paying people. Great.
That's why there's the Chad Designer Con. And the Supreme Light Box.
I'm so bummed that this would have been the first light box, right?
Last year was the first light box, or for 2019, and then 2020 was the first time they went virtual. And actually, I think they did a pretty darn good job with it. Even going right down to they modeled a whole like virtual artist alley.
Yeah,
so
they were so
extra.
Down
the alley. It was like it was super
cool.
impressive. And what they did
was like a Second Life thing.
Yeah, it was like they had a 3D probably rigger who just like you could like Google Maps through the artist alley. It was cray.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it was cool because then you could go to each booth, and it would be set up like a booth in a big convention hall. So you could just like hop spots between booths, and you could go click on each of their like little backdrops, which are their banners there, and then there are hot links embedded in different parts of the backdrop. So it was like
cool.
So it would almost be like your poster or canvas board that would hang behind you at your table, and then it would take you to their website where they may or to their online store where you can put in a discount code because you're an attendee that you get a certain discount on the merch and that kind of stuff. So
that's cool.
I mean, I literally spent all like I think the only thing I got was like an entire brush set for Procreate 5, and it was the best purchase, honestly, because their brushes I already use every single day for work. And so they're
nice.
like gouache, watercolor, comic inking, all that. I mean, it's really nice stuff. If you know Max Packs, it was Max Packs, so they had like a discount where I just kind of went crazy and got all the brushes plus a pack of like paper textures. I'm going nuts with this, but it's all stuff I'm gonna use, so yay.
My illustrations are gonna be so dope now.
Exactly.
But like, dude, conventions are such a cool place to go and meet people, like,
absolutely,
especially if you're doing like, I did a lot of classes at Concept Design Academy. And so, like, I would go to CTN, years and years ago, and it would be cool because I'd see friends from class, but they would be hanging out with people from like their first job, and so I would I'd slowly start to expand my network. Like, oh, this is so and so, he's a storyboard artist. Oh, like, could you look at my portfolio? Yeah, sure. And, that's actually like how I met Chris Copeland for the first time. My friend was working on Transformers with him. He was on season 1, I think. So we were not there at the same time. But like, we met each other through a mutual friend at CTN, and he was kind enough to like grab lunch with this total stranger who knew one of his friends and give me portfolio advice. Stuff like that really stuck with me, and it's kind of why I try to kind of like repay it back into the world, because nobody got where they are on their own,
right?
And I mean, maybe some people did, but most people who say that would be liars.
Yeah.
Like I know, especially me, like I got to where I am like on the shoulders of like an entire community of people who were, going out of their way to help me look at my work, give me honest feedback, give me chances, give me tips about opportunities. uh I mean, even like uh I think you asked like how do you become a director, and I know I worked very hard as a storyboard artist,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of it was also opportunity. When Rise of the Turtles was staffing up, they had filled all of their storyboard slots, but they asked if I wanted to be an assistant director, um, which was kind of like, I kind of joked that was like the directing kiddie pool, because I got to kind of start learning what it meant to be a director without the actual accountability and responsibility of it. So that was a godsend. Um, and so I actually worked. My director was Brendan Clawher, and we went to LMU together, and I was his TA for storyboarding class.
Aww.
Oh wow.
And so then that was 10 years later or something like that. He was my director. But it was awesome actually getting to work with and under him. But yeah, it was I guess I'm not actually sure like what I would tell people who want to be directors, other than like
Do a good job.
work hard. Yeah, like I feel like it's so unhelpful, but like do a good job, and you'll be noticed. No, like there's like a weird like set of skills that nobody tells you about for directing. Like there's like a lot of like management skills, and I don't even know how you would showcase that as a storyboard artist, but it's like so essential to being a director.
Oh yeah.
Like being like organizational skills, communication skills, just being able to manage different personalities on your team. Some people need this kind of feedback, some people need that kind of feedback, and you can't cross the wires.
Oh yeah, like I have stories about that, but essentially, the biggest thing is like letting people, like being honest with the people you work with in a way that like they can also be honest with you in return. So there's it's kind of like a two-way street, as far as just like, hey, I'm not doing this to be an asshole, but like trying to also giving constructive criticism versus just saying like, hey, you suck, like don't do that. So, and reading people,
yeah,
and,
like
all sorts of stuff.
It's so yeah, like being constructive is so key. No, like I don't know, whenever I call out a problem on something, I always try to present a solution also, because I hate like I never want to be the guy that like walks into the room with the baseball bat and then just smashes everything and then says, all right, clean it up and fix everything, and then walks out. Like I want to, like, if I'm gonna break something, I want to at least be able to tell someone like how I think you might be able to fix it. But yeah, like I guess I don't know. I guess I haven't really thought about like advice for like how you become a director. I guess I've recommended a few artists for directing jobs, and there's a few things that made me recommend those artists. And it's not just having like cool shots, but it's having like it's being able to look at a storyboard, or sorry, being able to look at a script and really bring out this, like really being able to like hone in on like the key like points in the story, and or being able to like like being able to look at something and go, okay, this is what the intent of this scene is, and these are some things I can do to really make that intent sing. These are some like this is like some like subtle character acting I can layer in to really drive this point home. This is it's stuff like that that really really shows that you're thinking about story on a different level. and another thing that I know is like just make it known that you want to direct. That way people will at least think about you
Mhm.
like that. Because I know, for example, people who have wanted to direct, but they never really told their, the supervisors on their
Mhm.
projects, and and so years would go by, and like no one's noticing me, no one's offering me jobs, and it's and the producers would say, "Oh, I had no idea they wanted to.
Mhm.
I could have told them, that they should do this, this, and this if they actually wanted to take that step."
Yeah, I think that's like also like realistic advice too, because when you deal with a lot of, generally introverted people, like, again, like you said, you have to kind of learn all those skills about being communicative and like trusting other people, like, to have that support system, I guess, like making sure your intentions
Mhm.
are, correct and stuff like that. But again, like that's a whole like another thing.
Yeah.
But
You
go,
know,
go ahead.
one thing I think that one thing I would say to do, like, if you want to be a director, make sure that you are collaborative and make sure that you're a problem
Mm-hmm.
solver. Don't be one of those people that gets a bad script and just complains about it. Because I'll tell you right now, like, if I just see somebody like bitching and moaning about a script, rather than actually looking at, all right, well, how can I fix this? How can I make the best version of this terrible script? Uh, like the, I'm never going to recommend someone that only complains, because like so much of the job is problem
Mm-hmm.
solving, and being collaborative is such a big part of it. And I'm pretty sure that was a big part of what helped me get promoted, is just my ability, or the effort I put into. I think I talked about it earlier when I was describing my job. A lot of it is making sure like the producer's vision is executed on the screen. It really, like, I really do mean that. It's um whenever I find something that I think is wrong with an episode, I usually try not to get focused on my solution. I usually try to make sure that we at least we are agreeing on the problem,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can find a solution that makes everybody happy. And I try really hard not to get married to a particular solution to a problem, so that, because at the end of the day, like, if I I'm trying to think of an example, but um, or even like just a stupid hypothetical. Like, if I don't know, I can't think of a stupid hypothetical, but it's really it's being able to articulate what the problem is, and then I'll always pitch my solution to
Mm-hmm.
it. But I'll try really hard not to get married to that solution, because sometimes my solution will have its own problems. Like, there were times where I would pitch a solution, and the producers and writers would go, "Oh, we actually can't do that because this line exists." Because network said this was unclear, and they asked for something to clarify this plot
Mm-hmm.
point, which is why this line is here. So we can't do your solution because that's what network asked us not to
Right.
do. So it's like, okay, well,
Mm.
at least we agree, my solution's out the door or out the window, but at least we agree that there is a problem. So let's talk about something. Let's try to find something that solves the problem, but doesn't bump on solves the problem, doesn't bump on the network issue,
Mm-hmm.
while also, just telling a good story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that's really going to set you apart, as a somebody who is in. If you're able to collaborate like that, people above you are going to go, "That's someone I can work
Mm-hmm.
with. That's someone who's going to do a great job uh, running a team." If you're fighting the directors, or if you're fighting the producers and writers, if you're arguing with them all the time, they're going to go, "Man, I don't care how great their stuff is. That person is like, I don't want to promote them and just have arguments all the time."
Right.
Yeah, so like really, really think about the way you like collaborate go out of your way to collaborate or be collaborative. And honestly, there are very few times where I didn't. There are very few times where I was unhappy with the solution we came out of the room with to get working through it together. So at the end of the day, I try to really focus on, hey, as long as the problem is solved, I'm open to any solution.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. All right. I'm out of questions. Lauren, are you good, or how you feeling?
I think that answered every single question that I possibly could have had, and that's a good thing, because I mean, that's good. This was like the absolute perfect way to wrap it up, honestly, because it is there's so much advice in there, and so many little tidbits for everybody in there that does want to go down this path. So yeah, it's like, yeah, it's something I feel like we've heard it from other guests as well, and so just to emphasize the importance of it, hearing it from other people, and from hearing it from JJ today, is that, yeah, just like, you gotta work at your craft. You gotta, so basically, watch a lot of movies, draw, make friends, talk. And
the nice thing is, like,
and use resources.
Like, everyone in animation's like, most of us are like introverted and awkward, so like, you're in good company.
As long as you own it,
Yeah, like, like, it's, yeah, like, there's a lot of people that are going to share a lot of common interests with you, and a lot of very niche interests also. So like, it's really good company. There's a lot of really good people in this industry, and it's like a real, like, just blessing to be in this line of work. Like, man, there are times where, like, as hard as my day was, like, I just sit back and go, yeah, but I just got paid really good money to draw pictures all day. Like, like, I know people that are like accountants and just do nothing but like tax returns who don't make as good of money as people in animation do.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it is hard, and it is so labor intensive, but it is also such a fun job. At least I've been lucky enough that, I spent my career working with good people on good crews, on good shows at good studios. That, sometimes, a certain studio will cancel a show halfway through the second season, but, still, like, it's like the environment at, Nickelodeon is really, I really love working there, and it's I have had a really great time working there, and hope to continue working there.
Oh.
And where can people find you, JJ, on the social media, so they can check out your stuff as well, and maybe talk to you?
I am on Twitter. If you're looking at any Rise of the Ninja Turtles tag, I'm probably jumping in like a little goblin to, drop memes and stuff. I actually don't remember my Twitter handle.
Oh my God.
That's why I'm stalling as I look up Twitter. You can find me at JJ_Conway. That's 2 J's, not J.
Yeah,
I was just about to say, I'm like, I can pull you up real fast.
Yeah.
I was gonna say before this, so like we do headshots for all our guests, like custom, like, of like the show, their show style. So we were like, we can't find pictures of JJ because there's no pictures of IMDb. So I ended up having to go on your LinkedIn. And I'm just like, oh man, that's a white guy. So, that's...
Oh man, if that's the picture I'm thinking of, that's like a really respectable picture of me. That is not, like, my friend was just like, literally just yesterday, he's like, you still have that Joker picture for your Twitter icon? I'm like, yeah, I guess I've had that for like 12 years. That picture's like 12 years old or something like that.
It's fine.
It's like either way, we'll send you a headshot, and it's our little goodie to you for being our guest. And
you can use it to replace your creepy Joker profile picture. There you go.
And people will be like, relevant? "Oh my god, he changed it." What happened? Something happened. He changed it.
Uh-oh, did he need to get a respectable job or something?
Oh no, he's turned into an accountant.
Oh no, he's doing tax returns now. Nothing against people that do tax returns. I admire your ability to do to do something of that kind of responsibility. That is an actual high stakes job. Someone got really mad at me at an Animation Guild meeting because they were talking about like how important animation is, and I said something like, "Man, like what's the worst that's gonna happen if we fuck up our job? An episode goes overseas late? like this is we're not ER nurses who are like, who if they screw up, someone's gonna freaking die. Like, ooh, a shipment goes to Australia tomorrow." Ooh, worst case scenario. If I do my job wrong, the episode's not gonna. An 11-minute episode's not gonna be good. Like,
oh my god. Well, someone will care.
I'm so glad.
Someone might not be dead, but someone will care.
Screw up someone's tax returns, that poor person who paid good money to that accountant, they're going to be in trouble with the IRS, and they got a whole mess to untangle. Like, that's an actual high stakes job. Yeah.
Oh god. Okay, so and then I'll do the usual outro stuff. So if you're new, I guess, welcome, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans. I do videos on the internet sometimes, so you can find the main channel like everywhere. Just type in "I love Kim Possible" a lot. I promise I'm not 15, and subscribe there. I describe this to JJ, who probably has like zero context. So and then we put the podcast out on all the SoundCloud and iTunes and stuff at Animation Kimmunication, and then Twitter is at KP Podcasts, and we do episodes every Wednesday unless something happens, which happens. So we took like a 2-week long break recently, just like, yeah, it's fine. What are people gonna do? They can just rewatch some old ones. They're long. Or
re-listen. Your whole Twitter feed explode like, oh my god, where are they? Where are they? Something happened.
Just how
it's like, otherwise our other accounts are alive on Twitter, so they just know we're functioning. They know we're out there.
They
I don't know, functioning is a generous word.
I saw you post on your other account. Why are you not uploading a new podcast?
Let me tell you, that is a great way to see if people are actually if you email them, if they're actually ignoring you, or if they're just haven't just gotten around to it. Because if they're posting constantly on their social media, but they're like, it's been 3 weeks, you haven't answered my email, then you know. So that's my other tip.
I'm busy. I go on social media to post cat pictures and procrastinate.
Oh my god, so much anxiety. But yeah, thanks for being on, JJ. You were really fun and really informative. And
oh, my pleasure.
I was glad to have this mini reunion with you on here.
Yeah, it's good to reconnect over Discord in these COVID times.
We made it work. It's fine.
Yeah, totally. I don't know. It's one of the cool things about I don't know, just the way the whole world has had to figure out how to make things happen right now is I don't know, the world's kind of become smaller because now I'm I'm connecting with people all over the world, and it's I don't know, it's just on my Discord, I got friends literally all over the place, and so it's I don't know, it's kind of cool. It's made the world a little smaller in a good way, I think.
So was it a small world after all?
Like,
Then he
it's
just
as
leaves.
easy. Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much for joining us, JJ.
This
This was
my
fun,
pleasure.
really fun. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for having me, and yeah, have a good one.
Yay.
Yeah, thanks you too, and thank you everybody for tuning in. And tune in next time when we have either us or a guest. We won't tell you.
I don't know. It depends. Depends what we feel like. Depends who will answer our emails. Okay. Bye,
All right,
everyone.
bye, guys.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Woo!
Thank you so much for listening to Animation Communication on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider. We are really hoping this show makes a difference in how people view animation and media, as well as giving and providing advice for people all over the world who like or want to join the animation or media industry. If you liked what you heard, please remember to subscribe and rate those 5 stars, as well as tell your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our main YouTube channel, I Love Kim Possible a Lot, and turn those notifications on. My name is Scribbler, and you have been listening to Animation Kimmunication.